Welcome into STB Sports Takes, simply the best sports podcast. I'm your host, Sean Bingham. We are on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, everywhere you get your podcasts. We are there. Thank you for being here. Please follow us on TikTok, Instagram, all the social media platforms, X as well, formerly Twitter. Got a great show for you today. We got to start with the World Series. We're also talking NBA, we're talking NFL, we're talking college football. We've got it all, but we got to start with the World Series. Just last podcast, I heaped all this praise on Shohei Otani. Is he already the GOAT? He is the most talented player we've ever seen, but is he the GOAT yet? No, not yet. He went on to lose that game as the pitcher, go 0 for 3 with 2 strikeouts, and then go 0 for 4 last night with another strikeout. So he's 0 for 7 with 3 strikeouts and a loss as the pitcher since I made that podcast about him potentially being the GOAT or well on his way. He still is well on his way, but the thing with Shohei Otani that he needs to improve upon is his consistency. It's one thing to hit, go 4 for 4, hit a couple home runs in one game, but then go 0 for 7 in the next 2. It's almost like you'd rather spread that out because consistency is a very underrated thing in sports. Guys that score in the NBA 25 points one night and 15 the next and 25, they average 20, but it's like, man, I'd rather get consistent 20 out of you than 25 and then 15, or even worse, 25 and then 7. And that's kind of what Shohei Otani does sometimes. 4 for 4, 2 home runs, or 3 home runs in one game, and then the next 2 games 0 for 7. It's like, hey, dude, why don't you hit a home run in each of those 3 games instead of 3 in one and 0 in the other 2? Now, obviously, that's easier said than done, but he needs to work on his batting consistency. We can't have these massive slumps where you go 5 for 55 or something like that and then go 5 for 5 the next game. Overall, your batting average might look okay, but consistency is key, and I get it. Slumps are part of the game. But if you want to be the GOAT, that is the spot that I think Shohei Otani needs to improve on, is his consistency while hitting. The real story from last night, though, was 22-year-old Trey Savage. This guy is a rookie who has now officially started more postseason games than regular season games. The Blue Jays just called him up and signed him in September. He's now 3-1 in the postseason. Last night he had 12 strikeouts in 7 innings, allowed 3 hits and just 1 run. He absolutely made a name for himself last night. I'm sure we will see big things, big paychecks coming his way in the offseason. The Blue Jays are now officially favored to win the World Series for the first time all series. Surprise, surprise. They're up 3-2. Of course, they're going to be favored to win one of the next 2. But the Dodgers are favored to win Game 6 tomorrow night, so we'll see how that goes. At this point, to me, I got to admit, I thought the Dodgers would win. I even thought they might win it in 6. But I watched all the games, and I got to be honest, the Blue Jays have been the better team. One of their losses was an 18-inning slog that clearly was very evenly matched and could have gone either way, and it ended with the home team hitting a walk-off, which was an amazing game, epic game. But without that 18-inning game, the Dodgers would have already lost this series 4-1. So the Blue Jays do feel like the better team. Ironically, the Blue Jays went 1-1 at home, and then the Dodgers went 1-2 at home. So the home teams are actually struggling. 2-3 in the series so far. So I'm not at all putting it past the Dodgers to go win 2 in a row. That can absolutely be done. But at this point, it feels like the Blue Jays are the better team, and they're going to win. All right, moving on to the NBA. Michael Jordan sat down again with Mike Tirico for his insights to excellence, and he was asked about load management, and there's no surprise whatsoever on what he said. He talked about how it's not needed. He didn't think that way. He wanted to go prove himself every night. He wanted to please the fans every night. He wanted to shut the fans up every night. Let's have a listen real quick, and then we'll talk about it.
Load management has become such a hot button in the NBA.
How I know you were going to talk about that one?
Because you played 80 games a lot. You played 82. What do you think of when you hear the term load management thrown around?
It shouldn't be needed, first and foremost. I never wanted to miss a game because it was an opportunity to prove. It was something that I felt like, the fans are there to watch me play. I want to impress that guy way up on top who probably worked his ass off to get a ticket or to get money to buy the ticket.
You really cared about the guy who sat in the top deck at the Palace in Auburn Hills to watch you when you came to Detroit?
Yeah, because I know he's probably yelling at me, and I want to shut him up. He's calling me all kinds of names. I definitely want to shut him up.
Right.
You have a duty that if they're wanting to see you, and as an entertainer, I want to show, right? So if the guys are coming to watch me play, I don't want to miss that opportunity. Now, physically, if I can't do it, then I can't do it. But physically, if I can do it, and I just don't feel like doing it, that's a whole different lens.
So give me the first time that you came to that fork in the road in your career where you could have sat down and missed a game, but you fought through.
Started my career.
Okay.
I twist my ankle. And I had a teammate. He says, "You twist your ankle, young fella. Come over and sit with me. You know, this is you need to." I said, "No, man. I'm trying to make a name for myself. There's no way I can sit. You know, I need to get out there and show what I'm capable of. I want to play. I want to win. I want to make an impact." And I twisted my ankle. I taped it up, and I went back out and I played. I always felt that. I always felt the necessary need that I could never leave my comrades out if I could perform, right? Even if I couldn't. Utah, great example. You know, everybody said the flu game. It's game 5, which is a very pivotal game. I was going to find a way to get out there, even if I was a decoy. Well, once I got out there, you know, you never know how, you know, pushing yourself, you never know what happens, right?
So that night you got out there and you found you could do more than you thought you were going to be able to.
Next thing you know, the emotions, the situation, the need of the team, you know, all those things catapulted me to, I'm going to gut this thing out. You know, back to your point of what load management is, you know, you play basketball 2.5 hours a day, 3 hours a day, right? That's your job. That's what you get paid to do as an NBA player. What are you doing the other 21 hours? I mean, to me, that's when you should be preparing for your next day of work or your next, you know, challenge. Now, I'm the worst. Maybe I'm not one of the guys that you would probably model that, or you know.
I was going to say, did you do that every time?
But you should think about that in retrospect of what load management really is. I always felt like one is a sense of pride for the fans that are paying. Right. 2 is a sense of, you know, making sure that I stay sharp. You know, I'm not going to lose it. And 3, I want our rhythm as a team to always be there. It can disrupt that synergy that's happening.
There you have it, the GOAT, MJ, not holding back at all. He did it very calmly, though. He didn't call anyone out. He didn't poke fun or call names, but he just said it like it is. I don't think it's needed. It wasn't how I thought at all. If I wanted to play, if I could play, if I was physically able to play, then I was going to play. And he's talking about playing through injuries. Load management is frequently just not playing to avoid an injury, but yet we're seeing injuries on the rise anyway. So I love that MJ said this. I wish that more guys, and I hope that more guys will watch this and decide, you know what? I'm playing. I want to be like that. I want to be like Mike. I want to be like the GOAT, and I'm playing. I'm going to play through injury, and I'm not going to not play to avoid injury. I'm going to play. If you get injured, you get injured, and you should take time off. You should heal. You should rest up. You should heal and come back strong. But if you're not injured, don't not play to avoid an injury. If that's the mentality, then just don't play at all. Go find a different profession. So I love that Michael Jordan said this, because coming from a fan, just a regular guy with a podcast like me, professional athletes might watch this and be like, he doesn't know what he's talking about. And that's fine. I don't. I've never been a professional athlete. But it's all about, it's an entertainment business. I love that Michael Jordan said, I want to entertain. As an entertainer, I want to show them. People go to the games to watch the stars. We don't go to the games to watch the backups. I can promise that. As a fan, I will tell the professional athletes this. We don't go to games to watch the backups. We don't. We go to watch the stars. We don't even necessarily go to watch good competition. We go to watch the stars. So if you are that, then be that. Be the entertainer. Imagine if you went to a Michael Jackson concert and some substitute came out that could sing really similar to Michael Jackson but wasn't Michael Jackson. You'd get a full refund. They wouldn't even hold the concert. So I wish professional athletes would look at it more like that. You are an entertainer. It is an entertainment business. I get it, you're a competitor, but it's an entertainment business. That's why we have games at 8:30 at night, because the TV deals are like, hey, you know what? This is when people are going to watch. This is when people are going to pay money. This is when you're playing. That's why we have baseball games going until 2 a.m. on the East Coast, 3 a.m. on the East Coast. It's entertainment. Speaking of injuries and injury-prone guys, Anthony Davis injured again, this time his Achilles. That is not a small injury. That is a very serious injury. I feel bad for Anthony Davis, and I feel bad even saying this, but this is like just another clear reason why the Mavericks were so crazy to do this trade. I don't blame the Mavericks for trading Luka Doncic. In fact, I think that Luka should be thanking them for the rude awakening and the motivating wake-up call that the Mavericks gave him by trading him away, because I think it whipped him into shape, literally and figuratively, and now he's playing at an MVP level. Meanwhile, the Dallas Mavericks are stuck with aging, injury-prone Anthony Davis. So what I do blame the Mavericks for is trading for Anthony Davis, Luka Doncic for Anthony Davis. That was stupid. That was so stupid. Anthony Davis has been riddled with injuries his entire career. He's been riddled with injuries since he got to Dallas. Immediately when he got there, he got hurt. Now he's got an Achilles injury. He will miss 20-plus games every season without question. Blunder the Mavericks made was what they got in return for Luka. I don't mind them trading him. In fact, I think it was even a smart move. But they should have gotten a king's ransom. They could have gotten a king's ransom. They could have gotten someone maybe even as big as Giannis. Who knows? But that's the caliber player that Luka is. I don't think that's an outrageous trade at all. Luka for Giannis. Luka's much younger. Many would argue that Giannis is better, but there's some that argue Luka's better and Luka's younger. Again, just throwing that out there as an example, but they could have gotten so much more than Anthony Davis. An aging, injury-prone superstar, injured again. I wish him nothing but the best. I hope he comes back strong. I hope this isn't an Achilles tear. I hope he's not out for months or a year. I hope it's just a couple of weeks and he can heal up and be strong. Because I'd like to see what this Mavericks team can do with Cooper Flagg, Klay Thompson, who's playing horribly, shooting awfully. I think he'll snap out of it and come back. Kyrie Irving should come back at some point later in the season, probably in like 4 or 5 months. And then Anthony Davis. If you can just get all those guys together for the home stretch, going into the playoffs and get a decent seeding, I actually think they could do some damage. But if they can't stay healthy, which unfortunately they probably can't, but if they can't, there's just no chance. Last note out of the NBA, Victor Wembanyama in his first 120 career games has more rebounds than Karl Malone, more points than LeBron James, more blocks than Hakeem Olajuwon, and more three-pointers than Steph Curry. What? This is insane. This guy has so much potential. He has more potential than any player we've ever seen enter the league. Just like Shohei Otani in baseball, this is wild. If Wemby can stay healthy and can keep this up, he will absolutely be in the GOAT conversation within 6 or 7 seasons. That's how good he really is. It's can he stay healthy and do it for an extended period of time? Because if he can, they're going to win championships. He's going to win MVPs. The big question mark will be, can he stay healthy and do this at a consistent level for the next 5, 6, 7, 10, 15 years? If he can do it even for 7 years, I'll say, he does this for 7 years and gets a couple championships, he'll be in that top 10 conversation. He does it for 10 plus years and gets 4 or 5 championships. Now we're talking GOAT conversation. That's how good Wemby is. Look at this. More points than LeBron, more blocks than Olajuwon, more rebounds than Karl Malone, and more threes than Steph Curry. That's the one that blows my mind the most. More three-pointers than Steph Curry in his first 120 games. Now, granted, the three-point shots become much more popular over the last few years because of Steph Curry over the last 10 plus years. But Steph Curry came into the league firing away. That was what he did. That's who he is as a three-point sniper. So this is no small thing for Wemby to have more three-pointers than Steph Curry through 120 games. And it's by 52 threes. Not a small number. Moving on to college football. BYU is on a bye week. Utah plays Cincinnati. But the fans are still going at it online. And this is a crazy but true stat, a very telling stat. The Utah fans are going to do some mental gymnastics to downplay this and write it off somehow. But this is just a fact, a cold, hard fact coming straight at you right now, Utah fans. Kyle Whittingham went on a level playing field with BYU when it comes to recruiting, finances, all those things, hiring power, recruiting power, financial power. When there's a level playing field with BYU, he's 3-5 against the Cougars. And he even lost one when he was a Power 5 conference in the Pac-12, and BYU was an independent coming out of the Mountain West. He lost one then too. 3-5 though, when on level playing field. 3-3 in the Mountain West, 0-2 in the Big 12. This is not a small thing. This is not a coincidence. This is a cold, hard fact. When the two teams are on a level playing field, BYU gets the better of them. My favorite mental gymnastics of all, though, that I've seen from Utah fans lately, I've received text messages about this, I've seen it on X, is Utah fans saying that Utah is the better team than BYU, they have the better resume, and BYU's resume is weak, therefore they're not as good as Utah, when they played each other and BYU won. So BYU's resume is Utah. So to say that BYU has a weak resume and therefore you're better than BYU when you are the resume. You are BYU's resume. So how could you possibly be better than them because their resume is weak? If BYU's resume is weak, then Utah is weak and BYU beat Utah. The mental gymnastics of the Utah fans is actually mind-blowing. Even last year at 5-7, finishing at the bottom of the barrel in the Big 12, Utah was convinced that they were the better team than BYU. while BYU finished at the top of the Big 12. I mean, think of the mental gymnastics it takes to do that. To be at the very bottom, looking up and saying, we're better than you. You're in last place, looking at first place, saying, we're better. There are some serious mental gymnastics going on there. Now, with that, let's get into the Utah versus Cincinnati matchup. This is a very big game. It's one of only 3 ranked versus ranked matchups this week. ESPN Game Day will be at Utah, which I think is amazing for the conference, for the state. I'm all for it. I think it's fantastic. Utah is favored by 9.5. It's going to be an interesting one. Cincinnati hasn't really played many tough opponents, but they are a high-scoring team. Utah doesn't typically do well in these big games with ESPN College Game Day or Fox's Big Noon Kickoff. But I'm still going to take the Utes to win, but I will take Cincinnati to cover. I don't think Utah will win by 10 plus. I'm going to say Utah wins 31-23. Another big ranked versus ranked matchup I'm keeping my eye on this week is Vanderbilt at Texas. This is a big one. This is an SEC showdown. This is 2 schools that are both ranked, looking pretty solid. Texas has been shaky, but kind of coming around. Vanderbilt's been solid, but really hasn't played a tough opponent with the exception of Alabama, who they lost to. But it was at Alabama, where not many people win. Arch Manning is coming off of a tremendous comeback against Mississippi State, but he also suffered a concussion in overtime of that game. He's expected to play. He's been practicing, but he's in concussion protocol. So obviously some big question marks there. But this is an interesting one. I look at their team defense, team offense. Texas's offense is pretty bad, actually. Their rushing offense is really bad, and Vanderbilt's rush defense is pretty solid. Their passing defense, not so much. Overall, Texas is the better defensive team. Vanderbilt is the better offensive team. I just think that with it being played at Texas in Austin, coming off of the momentum of that great comeback, the confidence you get from an amazing comeback, winning in a high-scoring game, Arch Manning won't have a whole lot to lose coming off that concussion. I think he's going to play more loose and relaxed. I think he's going to play better. I'm going to take Texas to win a close one. I think they have the superior coach in Steve Sarkisian. They have the superior defense, and they're playing at home with a quarterback who is finally coming around. He's not lived up to the hype and the expectations, but he is coming around. He's coming off of a great come-from-behind win. I think he's going to be healthy and good to go, and I'm going to take Texas to win by 3. The third and final ranked versus ranked matchup is Oklahoma at Tennessee. I'm going to take Tennessee in that one. I think these are 2 pretty evenly matched teams, and in the SEC, it's hard to win on the road. Going into Tennessee, going into Knoxville, going into Austin, going into Alabama is hard. Going into Texas is hard. Winning on the road against a solid SEC team is just one of the toughest things to do in college football. So I'm going to give the slight edge to Tennessee. I'll say they win a close one as well. I'll take the Volunteers by 4. That is all the time I have for today. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube. Follow on Instagram and TikTok. I am out. Peace.